Okay, so take two, the piracy show. Originally, when I recorded this, it went off on some tangents, and it ended up being it was going to be ridiculous. So I'm going to kind of claw it back and try to stay to the basic idea, which is, we've talked about what we expect. The things that we expect to see around CitizenCon, which is 20-ish days away from now. And, when dealing with all those things, there's always kind of, when we're talking about Star Citizen, we're always kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? And this is a question that comes up now and again. Do you think that there's any bad news coming down the pipeline? And I think that, in truth, a while ago I discussed the bad news, years ago, in fact, that was inevitably going to come down the pipeline. The culling of Star Citizen, I think I called it at the time. I think we're going all the way back to 2015. And I said that you're going to see some stuff pulled back by CIG, that there's just too much on the table for them to realistically complete. And it ended up happening. And the bad news for Star Citizen ended up happening already. And that was, when we get to launch 4 or 5 star systems. Now, recently we talked about 4 star systems that are very likely candidates, if not entirely confirmed, that CIG is at some level working on. Pyro, Nyx, Odin, and of course Stanton, which we're in right now. And that is a huge clawback from the hundreds of star systems that originally we thought we were going to get. So I think that, in truth, Star Citizen has already gotten its bad news. It has come and gone. And, when we found all that stuff out, I didn't really react to it all that much. And some people were disappointed with me for that. But the truth is because I never expected there was going to be 100 star systems, especially when we saw the Pathfinder demo. I just went that one out the window, because a planet is much more than you get in most MMOs. I mean, as a WoW player, even I have to recognize that, WoW is basically like an amusement park. It's not really like continents and all that. It's made to kind of look like it, but it really isn't all that big of a play area. When it was new, it was groundbreaking, but compared to now, it's nothing, right? And when you try to build worlds on that scale, multiple worlds, and you try to even fill them with just a small percentage of the content that those more concentrated worlds have, it's going to take a long ass time to get all that done. So the truth is that with Star Citizen, I think that Star Citizen has already been culled. The expectations have already been culled. So when people think that, they're waiting for the other shoe to drop, unless there's a huge crisis in the project, I think that it has already come and gone. We've already crossed that bridge and burned it behind us. So I don't really think that there is bad news coming for Star Citizen. Now, some people might ask, well, do you think that there's going to be a culling of Squadron 42? And I think that has already happened as well. I think, and this is entirely my own speculation. This is fueled by nothing. This is not fueled by rumors or insider knowledge or anything like that. But I think that for a long time, Squadron 42's biggest problem was that it was fluid. Let's try to squeeze in a little bit here. Let's try to squeeze in a little extra here. What if we expanded this? What if we expanded that? And that, I think, was something that continuously pushed back on Squadron 42's development, along with the fact that they were having to build new tools for new features all over the place, because so much of this is not off the shelf. This is a lot of groundbreaking things that nobody's done before, and I think a fair argument could be made that maybe trying to break so many new territories was maybe a bit of a misplay. But I think that there has probably been a big sit down amongst the major stakeholders at CIG, and there's been a look, no more changes. That's it. What we have, we're moving forward. We're probably going to draw back on a lot of the tangential kind of adventures, like, oh, you can go talk to so and so the engineer and you can have 6 hours of conversation with him, and oh, what if we changed it so you can have him in the lunchroom instead of here or there or whatever. I think a lot of that has probably been pulled back, and the main focus is on delivering a final playable product, which is what we're supposed to see at the end of next year, supposedly. So I think that, when people say, oh, like, you're waiting for things to get cut, you're waiting for things to get removed, I think they already have been cut and removed in both camps. And that, honestly, is my belief. That is not a fact. That is my belief. That is what I perceive has happened. And I think that, that is probably, when people say, oh, are you waiting for bad news or anything like that? I think the bad news has come and gone, really. Right now, the only thing that really stands in the project's way is, some kind of financial or mismanagement disaster that leads to the project shutting down or something like that. But as far as bad news coming, I think, we have crossed that bridge. Now, does this mean that CIG is entirely out of the woods, free and clear, everything's great, it's all downhill from here, it's all easy? No. I think that there is still one of the big challenges facing CIG, I think, is developer disease. And developer disease is, something that I'm going to try to keep it tight and try to keep it small without wandering off too much. But I want to use another game as an example, and I think you know where I'm going to go with this. For a long time in the WoW universe, developers were always kind of crapping on the idea of going back to the original game, even though players were, making calls, bring that back. You can do that. Just bring back the original game. That's the version we liked. And that was, of course, WoW Classic. And the developers always kind of shit on the idea and always said, oh, you don't know, you had to face all these extra challenges. There were all these inconveniences. It really isn't as good as you think it was. And then they did it. There was a whole outburst from the community. There was some bad PR. Some people at at Blizzard made some really stupid statements up on stage. They brought it back, and by all reports, what has happened since is that the live retail product has all but died in terms of population. I play there, I can tell you that it has. That most servers are dead and most guilds are starving for players to complete, to do the current raids in the live retail product. Whereas supposedly Classic has nearly tripled their subscription numbers almost overnight. The game developers thought they knew better than the players, but it's because they're thinking like game developers and they're not thinking like players and not thinking about what players enjoy. And I think that the problem with game developers is that they try to always overthink or outthink the problem instead of just saying, you know what, maybe it's okay that the problem is there. Maybe, the inconveniences, maybe the inefficiencies are part of the game's charm or part of the game's appeal, and to be a AAA developer on that scale, to be world renowned, well known, and to misjudge your community and misjudge your players so grossly is not something that is only exclusive to Blizzard. This is something that exists in many game companies around the world, and this is always kind of the danger and the pitfall of being a game developer, is that you often lose sight of your responsibility in the process of developing games, in providing that entertainment to the client, because oftentimes you'll see game developers kind of push away criticism of their product, say, oh, you don't understand, and then their worlds, their games, whatever, they seem to die. And they'll come out, and some of them will even attack their critics and say, oh, you don't know what you're doing. But the truth is like, if you can't sell that product, if you can't market that product, then is it really them that doesn't know what they're saying, or is it you that don't know what you're doing? Now, to use a CIG example of where I think that CIG has kind of made a mistake is in the marketing of Star Citizen and the way that they reveal the project to us, or how they choose to reveal the project to us. Because you remember that 2015 was a pretty rough year, especially around the summer. That was a really tough time. But then, of course, there was the Lando leaks. And when the Lando leaks came out, all of a sudden, this huge amount of work that CIG had been doing in the background that they had not been showing us, all this stuff that had remained hidden from us for so long, when that came out and people started pouring through that leak and going, oh my God, look at all this stuff, that did so much to really reverse a lot of opinions. And a lot of people went like, whoa, okay, whoa, look at this. Look at the Vanduul Kingship. Look at the Blade. Look at all these cool ships. Look at all this stuff that they're building. A lot of it was incomplete, low quality textures on it, low quality models, works in progress, but all this stuff pointed to all this work that they were doing. And I think that accidental release of information was probably one of the most positive things that they had ever done. And I think that this is like a problem that CIG continuously has, is that they're far too secretive with what they're working on in the background. Sometimes you don't want to reveal things too soon because you don't want too many people commenting on it or second guessing what you're doing. But at the same time, I think it's important to show your work. It's important to show your progress. And I think that is an area where CIG continues to err on the side of caution. And I think that they should be a lot more liberal with these things, because when you show people this stuff and it's reassuring. Because when you have the point of view of a player, when you have the point of view of a backer, and a lot of this hidden stuff isn't revealed to you, it's very difficult as a developer to view the game as the consumer. And I think that has always been CIG's biggest weakness, is that they can't perceive the game the way that we perceive the game, because they get to see all the hidden stuff. They get to see all the works in progress. They get to see the project in much more complete fashion than we do. And so I think that's where CIG continuously trips up, is they misunderstand the community point of view, because they can't truthfully perceive the community point of view, because they have all this hidden information that they get to see that we don't get to see. And I think that does a lot to reassure the community, beyond the usual, quips and, oh, don't worry, you'll see it soon, and, little hints and little games that they like to play. I think that just being a lot more open would serve the entire community so much better. Now, I realize as I'm saying this that I'm once again starting to go off on my tangent, which led to me having to re-record this. But let me just say this. In closing, I don't think that there's any more bad news really coming down the pipeline, anything major. Some things may be delayed, some things may be pushed back on the schedule, but I think there isn't really any bad news coming down the pipe. But I think that the biggest challenge going forward, the biggest source of irritation going forward, is the fact that I think that CIG doesn't understand how their project is funded. And some of that funding is, of course, financial, but the other side of that funding is faith. And yeah, you know what? Holding back big news and big, content dumps for CitizenCon is, it's your chance to go out and put on a turtleneck and a blazer and a little microphone and play with a little remote and go ooh and ah and have those big moments. But I think if you kind of pull back from something like that and just maybe share with the community more on a regular basis, you'd do a lot better for yourself, and you'd help yourself out a hell of a lot. I'm going to stop right there. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and thanks for watching. And, well, thanks for waiting since I redid this one.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.